How Sweet the Sound, the story of Amazing Grace. Written by Carole Boston Weatherford. Illustrated by Frank Morrison. Slave ship Greyhound, ocean faring, young John homeward, brawling, swearing. Fierce storm, sea squall, ripping sails, young John wakes to crewmen's wails. Fearing this night is his last, trembling John relives his past. Mother teaching hymns of praise, little angel John obeys. Bible study, growing wise, lessons end when mother dies. Father, captain, John to sea, no more prayers on bended knee. Scoundrel, rascal, picking fights, fussing, fuming, never right. John meets Mary, bloom so sweet, pitter-patter, heart skips beat. Navy nabs him, John jumps ship, lovesick, captured, beaten, whipped, slaver servant, bound in chains, meals of raw fish, belly pains. Human cargo in the hold, moaning, groaning, suffering souls. Wasted life, now gale wind tossed, young John fears that all is lost. Pumping water, John plugs leaks, raging storm makes sea dogs weak. Captain shouts, John, steer the ship! 10 long hours the helm he grips. Praying, pleading off and on, Lord, just let me see the dawn. Peaceful ocean, lifting fog, Greyhound drifting, waterlogged. Crew bails water day and night, rations thinning bite by bite. Island spotted over there! Eyes deceive in high noon glare. Hope of reaching England sinks. Crew brands John a Jonah, jinx. Crew taunts, dump him overboard! John spared only by the Lord. Greyhound tugged by unseen hand, crew at long last glimpses land. Safe at home, brought through the storm, young John Newton is reborn. Trusting God as compass, guide, John is captain, Mary bride. After John retires from sea, he preaches to end slavery. Ever thankful, faith still strong, Reverend Newton pens this song. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. Lyrics sail across the sea, meet a folksy melody. Shape note singers sound it plain, all aboard the gospel train. Cherokees, a westbound band, driven from their eastern lands, trudging on the trail of tears, they chant this song to draw God near. Cannon fire, battlefield, weary soldiers bloodied kneel, him a comfort to the core in the throes of civil war. Choirs make the song their own. Newton's timeless hymn has grown, verses added here and there, till this song is like a prayer. On records and on radio, stirring words that millions know. Mahalia, how sweet her sound, hymn that's hummed the whole world round. Praising God in each translation, a leader sings to heal a nation. Call to conscience, plea for peace, him whose wonders never cease. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares I have already come. 'Tis grace hath brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. The Lord has promised good to me. His word my hope secures. He will my shield and portion be, as long as life endures. Yes, when this flesh and heart shall fail, and mortal life shall cease, I shall possess within the veil a life of joy and peace. The earth shall soon dissolve like snow, the sun forbear to shine, but God who called me here below will be forever mine. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we'd first begun. The popular hymn Amazing Grace recounts the stormy night when hymn writer John Newton opened his heart to God. John was born in 1725 in London, England. His mother, who taught him scripture and hymns, died when he was 7. Thus, John spent part of his childhood at sea with his father, a captain. As a teen, John was pressed into service by the Royal Navy and was nearly starved while working as a servant to a slave trader in Africa. These experiences hardened his heart. John drank, cursed, and fought. Even the meanest sailors feared him. In March 1748, Newton was a passenger on the slave ship Greyhound when a violent storm struck. Fearing death, Newton turned to God. Amazingly, the battered ship weathered the storm. Grateful that God had spared his life, Newton gradually changed his ways. He studied the Bible and married his childhood sweetheart, Mary. However, he also captained his own slave ship. After an illness forced him to give up seafaring, he worked as a surveyor of tides, but he felt called to be a minister. In 1764, Newton began pastoring a church in Olney, England. With poet William Cowper, Newton wrote hymns for weekly prayer meetings. Over time, he changed his views about human bondage and raised his pen against slavery. His Thoughts Upon the African Slave Trade helped bring slavery to an end in the British Empire. By 1779, Newton had written 280 hymns. He died in 1807 in London, England. In the years that followed, British colonists brought the hymn with them to North America. There, the lyrics were paired with a folk tune known as New Britain. Shape note singers who sang a cappella popularized the song at camp meetings. Over time, verses were added to the original hymn. For example, African Americans attached lyrics that spoke to their struggle. The hymn was sung by Cherokees in their mother tongue on the Trail of Tears, a forced migration from their native lands in the east to territory west of the Mississippi. Civil War soldiers, African Americans during slavery, segregation, and the Civil Rights Movement, and anti-war protesters during the Vietnam War leaned on Newton's lyrics. President Barack Obama even led the congregation in singing the hymn at a funeral of a church shooting victim. Many renditions of the hymn have been recorded by artists ranging from gospel singer Mahalia Jackson and folk singer Judy Collins to rock and roll legend Elvis Presley. The lyrics used in this book are likely from the earliest published version of the hymn and can be found at anointedlinks.com/amazing_grace, with the exception of the last verse, which Harriet Beecher Stowe wrote for Uncle Tom's Cabin. Translated into many languages, Amazing Grace continues to inspire the world over.